Charles Leclerc is back, baby. Finally.
He gobbled up another win, baby.
It's better than the yabba dabba doo from George. Uh, I think too many high-speed corners got these guys' brains kind of a little fried at the end of the races.
Yeah, that was one of the wildest win race radios I've ever seen. Yeah, good on Leclerc. You know, we were banking on him in Austria to break out of that slump. He did not, but you know, had a little bit of a rougher sprint. Post sprint, had an interview where he said, I saw some data, I've learned some things. It's a little bit of a philosophical change, so we're going to give it a go for quali, and if that works, then I'll start doing that. Was basically the takeaway.
It sounds like
well,
he
it
was being
worked.
stubborn on old ways.
Yeah, something to do with deployment or just something with his driving style that he wound up switching around. He out-qualified Lewis, so clearly it worked.
At Silverstone.
Yeah, that is a big undertaking. According to Kimmy, a legend of Silverstone, which I agree with. Lewis is just
nine
around
wins,
here.
And was it 2021? He had a crazy comeback.
Mm-hmm.
Penalty. Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah. Good to see Ferrari bring a fight to Mercedes. We'll get into a kind of streak of bad luck for Mercedes that happened this race, but to touch a little bit more on Ferrari's sprint, Lewis finished P2 behind Kimi. Really felt like he was willing the car there. Like, clearly Mercedes had a pace advantage, but he was able to make it happen. He even said once Kimi got in the overtake zone within 1 second, it was basically inevitable that Kimi was going to get him. However, something seemed to have changed this race. Now, whether that was Leclerc getting out to that early lead and not really getting people behind him, so he was able to kind of get away from that, it worked out for him.
I will say he got, like, the first couple laps, Lewis was like within the 1 second or like borderline just out, and I was like, okay, this is a matter of time. And then, you know, they show other stuff for a couple laps, and all of a sudden you see the gap there, and it's like 3 point something. Okay, so Charles is outpacing him, and then once Lewis got the time penalty, they kept saying he backed off, but in my mind, I don't know why he would back off there, because he wants to create the gap to third. So I think they got that wrong, especially knowing Lewis. It'd be, let me gap third place so that when I serve my penalty, you know, it's that time difference at least is like we were close.
Yeah. I mean, there was some potential for strategy there, but I agree that wasn't his intent. You know, the idea kind of backing off and holding up Kimi so that Leclerc could get away. Now, whether that was intentional or not, I don't know.
Halfway through the race where it's like, okay, Lewis's race is compromised, but on lap like 2 or 3, his race isn't compromised. It's 5 seconds. It's a long way to go.
Yeah, and Lewis isn't going to back down that easily. So, they both got off to a real great start. Lewis ultimately too great of a start. Got a false start penalty. A little bit of British bias there, we believe.
Yeah, commentators were pissing me off there for a couple minutes, but
very clearly a jump. Yeah, I mean, they've got sensors on the car, and if they sense any movement before the lights go out, it's going to be a penalty. That's
it was clear. I mean,
open and shut
jumped,
pace.
Stopped, light went out. So he just was, I think he was a little gung-ho to get going. Still had a great start. The Ferraris are still rocket ships. Kimi, terrible start.
Well, yeah, couple. Lewis, did he have a potential to win without that penalty? You think he could have brought it to him? It's really hard to say because after the penalty, he was just far behind.
Because
and
of serving
really
the penalty,
look.
It's hard to tell.
Mm-hmm.
I think he had most of the pace to do it. Based on seeing George trying to pass Max, that would have been interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And then Lewis was behind him, and obviously we know Max's elbows out all the time. I don't know if he would have had it. Kimmy had pace. I don't know if George would have been issue. It would have been interesting. I mean, it's one of those like we'll never know because of the 5 second penalty.
There's a lot of coulda, woulda, shouldas from this race based on how everything played out. But Lewis was definitely on fire. He was sending it. He made a pretty ballsy overtake into Cops.
Him
And was
and George going at it. That was exciting for
yeah,
sure.
through Maggots and Beckett side by side was pretty cool. It got a little spicy there. I think we predicted a little bit of that, some overtakes and some non-traditional overtaking spots because of the batteries. Overall, pretty entertaining. Good for Ferrari. Closed the gap in the championship. So, fight's on.
Yeah, I think lap 29 was kind of the first bit of that fight with the three of them to like 35, 36. That was pretty just not. It wasn't even a lot of overtakes. It was just the fact that the corners, like you said, the corners are setting it on the battery usage, the ballsy outside, but no one gave a corner. Everyone fought for it. Lewis got by George. George took it right back. Um, my favorite one, which is this one's stupid, and it's not even because I'm a Max fan, is George and Max fought, and then Max got him back just to dip into the pit lane. He's like, I'm
Yep.
going to be petty right now. Like, no, but I'm actually changing my tires this lap, so let me slow
No,
you down for that little bit.
there was some pretty cool overtakes this whole weekend. Lando had a couple where he caught some people out with battery, going into the old pit straight. George had that double overtake. I think that was in the sprint as well.
Yeah, Max on Hadjar was fun to watch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the dive bomb. That was a good move. Yeah, it was pretty fun. And man, were we shortchanged as far as an epic one lap sprint to the finish after the restart. Max, unfortunate crash. We'll get into that here in a minute. Goes into a yellow flag.
Just say with the going off. I was watching with the little ones and my wife, and I happened to pause it because my kids wanted something the second they showed the like dust cloud. So it was like a fun like, oh,
Wonder
babe,
who it
do you
is.
think it is? And I joke like, oh, it's probably George, like or Charles, classic Charles, like 2 laps to go type thing.
Yeah.
Bins it, and then I unpause it. I see it's Max, and my daughter was like, "What the heck is going on?" I just fell out of the couch. I literally just plopped over, and I was like, "No, why me?" Depressing.
Yeah, same issue from Austria. Bad stuff going on over there. We'll get into that.
Yeah. Sorry, I was thinking later safety car, but VSC. That's the one you're talking about.
No, well, the VSC was for Hulkenberg's off track. I think that was in Cops, but it was like way inside.
Yeah, he pulled over on the inside of the turn.
Yeah. No, I'm talking about the yellow flag at the end of the race, the restart. David Coulthard said it's a little bit of Abu Dhabi do, which I got a nice little chuckle out of. Which was totally true. We were in that same scenario of like 3 laps to go. Do you let the back markers through? Is there enough time to race? They actually did what they, in my opinion, should have done in Abu Dhabi. They let everyone back through. But then we get blue balls. They tell us we're going to get one racing lap, and safety car never comes in. So, yeah, the official word from the FIA was that the safety car ended and then was redeployed. Smells like BS to me. I don't.
If you want to hear a hot take, because we love to talk about the British bias, which always seems kind of true, I think they handed George that freebie P2 while he was on the mediums.
He was vulnerable. He stayed out. Had the slow puncture. Pit again, dropped all the way back to P7 or something like that. And then got lucky, stayed out with the yellow flag safety car. And yeah, came out ahead of Lewis after Lewis stopped and get some fresh tires, and got bailed out. So a little bit of luck there.
Safety car is garbage. There's
You
no
think it
rule
should have been a
saying
red
that they
flag?
have to catch. We had this conversation, what, 2 races ago about the whether it should be a red flag start. It was Kimi was in first. So my thing with that is Charles had a fat lead. The full safety cars are already crippling for the lead you have in first, which I know isn't why we have a safety car. It's not about protecting the guy in first. It's about safety.
Yeah.
But my thing is like if you do a standing start, and if he wasn't in a Ferrari, all of a sudden he's in trouble. Everyone's on fresh tires. Mercedes is lethal on deployment, so that might be a George win. I think we should have got the racing lap. There's no rule that says like you can let the lap cars through, but they don't have to catch the pack. Like let them get a
Right.
third of the way down the lap. They're moving. They're trying to catch up.
And the car was cleared at that point,
No,
so I don't
send it.
know.
Pull the safety car
Yeah.
in and send it. Let Charles start the lap and let's see what they got. Instead, we sit there with our, thumbs up our butts, thinking that we were about to see something exciting.
I mean, what if it was as stupid as the safety car driver just forgot to pull
I
into the
honestly,
pits?
earlier was like, I think he did that, and they're like, okay, well, we'll just end it right here then. Cool.
That would be nuts if that's what happened. I mean, did the lights ever turn off? I need to go back through and watch that. Usually, the lights turn off to signify that it's ending, but
I didn't
I
pay
don't think the
attention to the
lights
lights.
ever
I
turned
just
off.
look at that top left bar saying safety car is
Yeah.
ending. Here we go.
Yeah. Usually they turn the lights off to let the drivers know, hey, safety car's on its way back into the pits, get ready to race, kind of thing. I never saw that, so I don't know if that actually happened or not. But yeah, disappointing for sure. I thought we were going to get one spicy lap to end it. We were definitely going to get some moves. Everyone was going to dump their batteries. You had George on the old tires there, so there was going to be a shuffle. I feel robbed. I think so did the fans at Silverstone. There was a particular camera shot while drivers were pulling into Parc Ferme, and fans looked just absolutely pissed. Like, what did we just get robbed of? I don't blame them.
I think, you have the Lando section, but I think it's safe to say 90% of the people there probably want Lewis to beat George there. Like, they want to see that happen. I mean, even if George gets past, you still get two Brits on the podium, right? So most people usually are rooting for Lewis. Sorry, George, but it's probably the case.
Well, I was going to talk about this later, but there was a interview, I think it was after the sprint, where someone had asked Lando his reaction to George saying he wants his own stands. And Lando scoffed, laughed, and then said, "Good luck." And basically said, "My fans are more passionate than his." So burn. And then I saw
my fans aren't a bunch of posh boys.
Yeah, exactly. And then I saw someone in the comments. I was just scrolling through social media. They're like, "Well, where's the Lewis stands?" I'm like, "That's called general admission. You're at the British Grand Prix."
Did you see how many red shirts there were this year at this race? It's wild.
Yeah. So, no, just disappointing end. Overall, it was an entertaining race. But man, we could have gotten something really special there at the end. So, a little bit of a bummer.
That way we don't go down this too much, but before the safety car, it's like, I don't know if he would have caught him, but Max was flying to catch Lewis, and Kimi was 100% going to catch Charles before the end of the race. I don't know if he was going to pass him, but he was going to catch him. Max was going to be like maybe on the final lap we might get a fight for a one lap, but I think we got
Kimi
big time
was
robbed of that. Oh no, Kimi was like,
it was like a second a lap for like 3 laps or something like that.
Yeah, 9/10 like back to back to back. He was catching him, so I'm more bummed we missed out on that. Obviously, it sucks for my guy, but that was a banger race. That was like lined up to have a super banger ending, and then it just like fell on its face. So that kind of sucks. But Mercedes has the performance, but they're having some very critical failures.
They're having bad luck and reliability issues.
George's you call it bad luck and good luck. Slow leak, or a slow leak puncture, but he had enough to still keep up in pace, which is crazy. That's not unheard of, but pretty much is. Because usually when you have a puncture, like you're hobbling to the pit lane.
Yeah, it had to be something real minor, something a piece of gravel or something just really unlucky that was minor enough that it didn't directly impact his performance immediately, and something that the engineer just saw tire pressure slowly dropping.
Losing like a
I
PSI and a
think he
half a
even did
lap or
like
something.
another lap and a half after they
He
told him before he came in.
he did another lap because they had said it, and then they do like fake pits and stuff where they try to bait other teams.
Oh, I thought for
Well, I'm
sure. I was
like,
like,
oh,
are they big
yeah, I'm
brain
like,
dummy right now trying
are
to get
they like
someone to
trying
pit?
like a new fake? Like, oh, George, we're gonna have to pit for tires, and I'm like, so are they gonna pit? Like, is Max gonna try to cover this or whatever? And then he went around. I'm like, oh, so there's no issue. They're just BSing. And then when he came in, I'm like, okay, so there's actually an issue. He's going on
Yeah.
fresh mediums.
Yeah, well,
You want to jump
I
on
thought his
Kimmy's?
race. Well, I thought his race was done at that point. Kimmy, I think the strategy was going to work out for him. We just got done talking about how he was going to catch Claire at the end. The reason he was put in that position was he went long in his first stint, right? So he got onto the hards late and had like a 10 lap tire advantage.
Yeah, 10 laps.
My opinion is he could have chased him down, and it was definitely going to be a fight at the end of the race if everything stayed green. Unfortunately, after he comes out and he's gaining, gets, like I said, 3 or 4 seconds
He was
into
within
Leclerc's lead.
3.6 or something like that.
Strange failure. So it was an arrow piece, part of the brake duct, basically, an inlet for the wheel. Broke, and basically the force of the air just snapped it and was basically causing him to have like massive drag. It was strange for me because I thought it was a suspension failure at first. We were watching the onboard, and I noticed that his steering wheel was kind of aimed to the right as he was trying to go straight. And so that's what led me to believe was like, oh, he broke part of his suspension or something. He can't, he has to turn the wheel part of the way in order to stay straight. But what it actually was the left front tire was dragging so hard that he basically had to turn right to go straight. Otherwise, he would have gone left just purely because
Like
of his
driving
aero.
an oval, like an oval setup car is what he's driving.
Yeah, yeah.
But I mean, they tore. So that happened, and they don't notice that from the onboard or just like the replays that they have access to for his first pit. Change tires,
yeah.
go back out there. Then they figure out. Then they rip it off. Still damage of some sort though. Something was broken.
Well, I think
Maybe not crazy, but there's something.
so. They noticed it in Sector 2, and by the time they got on the radio and they had the conversation, he was basically in the pit lane. So by the time he's there in his grids or in his pit lane box, they don't know what the issue is yet. So they like put new tires on and they swap his front wing, but they don't notice this piece of aero that's broken. And so he does a full pit stop, does a lap, and then basically is like, hey, you didn't fix it. It wasn't until he came around again that they recognized it was this aero piece. So we had to do 2 back-to-back stops. Dropped him to P10 at the time,
Yeah.
right in front of Colapinto. And then, because he was still struggling, wound up getting a track limits violation. So, little unfortunate. Again, it kind of dips into this conversation that we've had a few times already this season of what is the letter of the law versus the spirit of the law. Track limits are there to prevent people leaving the track and gaining an advantage. He clearly wasn't gaining an advantage. He was losing a lot of time. So, Aaron, what's your take on this penalty? Is that the spirit of?
Spirit of the law, letter of the law. We talked about it. I mean, Charles, like when Charles had the broken suspension, he was like making an S just the straight line. So his was extreme.
That was a little bit different. That was unsafe, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
I
his was
understand that.
unsafe. So I see both sides of Kimmy's. So you have the initial issue, like first couple of turns where he's like, "What the heck is going on?" I understand that, but then he's like, "I'm gonna give it a go," like openly on the radio. I don't know how you don't give him track limits on that because he's basically saying like, "I'm gonna race it out,"
Mm-hmm.
and he goes off a couple more times.
Well, he knew
And
there was a
knowing
point on the
Kimmy-
line.
And yeah, point on line, but knowing Kimmy, which I actually saw a clear shot earlier when he was chasing down someone, he definitely had at least one take, if not two, on his track limits. He does every single race. He pushes track limits more than probably anybody out there. Like he uses that until he's like, Kimmy, you have three strikes, like
Yeah.
all the time. So I think he probably got that out of trying to race it out more so than the like initial braking of his car.
Continuing to try to push, not just the car being undrivable.
Yeah, because I think it's fair
Yeah.
at that point to say, okay, he's racing again and he's pushing and he went off track. Okay, well, we got to give him one for that. At this point,
Yeah.
he's back in the game. You don't get freebies.
So if you're a steward here, are you giving him that penalty?
I think once he proclaims that he's gonna go for it, absolutely. I
That's
think on the
fair.
initial, I think anyone on the initial when something happens that's significant, nah, it's fine. You're not gaining
I
anything.
I was gonna argue with you, but I think you actually convinced me. I can get behind that.
It's my background of law enforcement, spirit and letter of the law. So like, you gotta understand. There it is.
um, should we jump into our boys? It was a rough weekend for both of us.
Yeah,
You want to start with Max?
I'll handle mine. I'm so angry and bummed out. Every time something like this happens, I feel like he's just leaving. Where it's like he performs well, something significant happens, and then I get depressed. P6 in the sprint, disappointing, terrible start. Um, Not a great quality for the race, but was racing well. Obviously, he jumped up there. He was
Well, he had
P
the issue in quali, right? He had something with his engine, was complaining, which was
complaining
weird
about
because
the
it showed up in
engine.
quali, and then it sounded like I was seeing things where he was pushing for a pit lane
He
start and an
was,
engine swap, but
yeah,
it
he
didn't
was pushing.
happen.
No, the
And then
first
he
thing,
wasn't suffering in the race, so I'm very
no,
confused.
or at least he
Yeah,
just shut his mouth about it, or they did like some
yeah,
sort of band-aid tweak or something overnight, which is what I'm guessing
yeah.
because I saw it a bunch last night, didn't get confirmation, and then when they do their whole intro and they show the grid, I was
Hmm.
waiting to see, Max Verstappen took a grid penalty starting from the pit lane, whatever,
Yep.
nothing. So I'm like, okay, well they either figured it out or they're basically like, Max, we're dealing with it. You just got to race,
Yeah.
which I feel like they probably fixed it because he's not. I feel like he gets what he wants, right? That
Yeah.
if Max is like, I want a new engine because this one is broken, they'll give it to him.
I don't know what fix you could do, but without
It could
breaking
have
part
been,
for
I
May,
mean,
but it could have been software related. But
I would
even
say
that, I think gets locked
software.
down. Yeah,
I don't
some
know,
of it.
something minor, or like I said, they might have just been like, you know what, let's suck it up this race. We'll swap out your motor, like your power unit for the next one. But racing well. Hadjar was quicker than him this weekend on quali. Obviously, you get to the race. I don't think anyone puts it on a knife's edge more than Max. I thought it was inevitable that he was going to pass Hadjar, but I mean, it would, in a way, it would have been a good surprise for him to not, because the other side of me as a Red Bull fan, I'm like, I want Hadjar to
Means you have a good
be the
car.
guy that, yeah, that
Yeah.
challenges him and has a good car. Um, he did complain about the gear shifting, but once again,
He held
you
his
have to
mouth for a
take,
while, let it slip, and then we
yeah,
didn't hear anything else
yeah,
about it. So
he
it
does.
sounded like he was sucking it
It's
up.
a different kind of bitching than George's bitching.
Hmm.
Max does complain a lot when the car's not perfect. I won't say he doesn't, but he tends to make it work. Oh, my tires suck, and all of a sudden he's putting in like fastest lap for the next 3 laps, and you're like, okay, so you don't like them, but you can still
Yeah.
race the car. Um, the undercut on George worked out well.
Hmm.
Um, I got really excited when was he chasing Lewis or Lewis was behind him when we got the VSC, and it was like perfect timing when he was coming up on the pit lane. And I'm like, oh dude,
Yep.
this is money. They're gonna put Max on mediums and he's gonna send it, which is exactly what was happening. Um, and then we get to lap 48, dust cloud. I didn't even think about the fact it could be him. I was like, oh, it's somebody else. This is gonna be. I honestly thought it was Charles because that's a
Yeah.
thing that happens to him. Or George. George has a couple classic late race ones, but rear wing failure again. That's all the comments I saw afterwards. So they need to fix this. I mean, it's the third time it's been a car error. He had the rear lock in Australia, Austria wing failure, and that was quali, right? The Q3, that was Q3 quali.
Correct. Yep.
And then this, and we're talking, this is a podium. It's a
Mm-hmm.
podium. I think he catches, sorry, we talked about this. I think he catches Lewis. I think it would have been a fight. But based on tire delta, I think Max probably would have had him. Um, but they're costing themselves serious points. And if you want Max to stick around, you are losing valuable championship points for the driver. I mean, obviously as a team it's a big deal, but potential podium, and then who knows where he would have qualified in Austria. We're talking like this championship fight is starting to look really interesting, and
Mm-hmm.
the guys from like fifth to eighth really aren't that far out of it. So things like this happening are making that look a lot worse than it could have been. Like, he got 15, 18, 10 points, whatever today. That's a pretty big jump for him. And you're also keeping him out of depression and wanting to leave because he's like, this car sucks. I don't like unbelievable, bleep, 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 bleep when he gets out of the, or when he's getting out of the car. Um, and in his post-race interviews, it's just getting dangerous. I mean, there's some sort of flaw in the rear wing. Figure it out. We talked about it a little bit. Um, I think pre podcast. Max pushes the car. Everyone pushes the car to the limit that they have. Max and there's Lewis has this like you got like a bonus edge depending on what track you're in, how you're flow state. But Max has this like extra bit when he needs it to go beyond that knife's edge. And I feel like with the way he drives versus like Hadjar, it's breaking on Max's car because he pushes that much more. And I mean, this could be completely wrong and he's just had shit luck and it's been his wing every time. But maybe that little bit tiny, like the 0.2 of a G is just enough to, pass a threshold on that mechanism that it's not shutting all the way. Because it's shutting. Like if you watch the replay, it's shutting. But to the naked eye, you can't see that it's not shutting all the way. So what he's getting 98% of the downforce when he's usually getting 100%. And that, other than sim racing, we don't know that feeling. But as soon as that sucker's gone at that speed, like at a Silverstone or Austria, you're gone. There's no recovering. You saw him make the correction, and then it was a bigger one. So he didn't have it.
It's unsettled the car, and he almost caught it. But of course, when you overcorrect, then you just go flying. So
yeah, I mean, yes, I think of it as I mean, you said it. A normal snap, he saves it, but no, he was gone. It's sad.
Speed. Yeah, I mean, my original thought was, is it confirmed as a mechanism failure, or is it just something to do with the rear wing?
Just every time Max has spoken of it, it's not closing all the way. And Red Bull formally apologized to him again.
Yeah. So that, like, my thought is, this was a concern for Ferrari early in the season when they were testing the Macarena wing, that the car was getting unsettled as the wing rotated back around. I haven't done the mental gymnastics to recall which way their wing rotates and how that would affect drag conceptually, but as see, you figured it out.
They go opposite. I think Red Bull's goes towards the rear because theirs was a little bit faster.
Though I think if this is forward, I think it rotates around like that. Best part right? Of the show. So my it's point like is, it's like my point is as that rotates around, it changes the airflow. And we saw it during the sprint and during qualifying where gusts of winds were catching people out. That was mostly manifesting in lockups under braking. However, with this Macarena style wing, it wouldn't surprise me that a gust of wind might catch that as it's rotating and just unstabilize the car just enough to cause that snap. And at that speed, you've got to be inhuman to catch that. So
I am by no means for a millisecond, right? Like you have a parachute for
by
It's
no
not
means
a
am I
little bit.
saying Max is at fault, but I wonder if A, is it driving style, B, is it a fatal flaw with the Macarena wing, or
It,
you know, C, is it all the above? I don't know. It's not happening to Hajar. That's the
uh,
confusing part.
and that's where it's like, if it's not a mechanism, is it a fatal flaw with the driving style? Just pushing the limit? Is it just it happens? Max happens to get unlucky with it, like, which I think goes back to driving style. Like Austria, aggressive corner, like maybe he takes it slightly more aggressive. At Silverstone, yeah, maybe just enough wind, um, just enough of a tailwind, like right when he's diving in the corner. And once again, it's like that, everything is fractions, right? So it's like
It's these
that
medium high
millimeter
speed
is,
corners after straight mode. It's constantly happening that way. All three instances of his crashes have been in corners like that.
yeah. And I mean, he said in the interview, like, hey, this, like, it's getting dangerous for me. And he's not wrong. I mean, Austria and Silverstone, he had huge runoffs.
Yeah.
That you take the runoff away, and you have something that's more like a Bearman crash at the beginning of the
Oh
season.
yeah.
Like, you don't have that runoff. I mean, they're happening at limit corners, which fortunately have big runoffs, but there are some very high speed corners that aren't typical, like crashing corners, if you want to say it, where there's not as much runoff that are high speed. And there's also street tracks where you're moving very quickly. You do have straight mode going off, and then a quick corner. I'm thinking of was it Baku that has the castle section? Is that Baku? No,
Yeah, I don't
that's
know if there'll be a straight mode. Yeah, I don't know
the
if there'll be a
straight
straight
high
mode
speed
there,
left
but
at the back
yeah,
end.
well, I'm sure that Monza's going to have some conditions like this,
Monza,
so
yeah.
they're going to have to get that figured out. My other initial thought before it was confirmed that the rear wing was at fault here was, is this something tied to the MGUK? You know, that was what they came out with and said in Australia, that because of the way the kinetic, battery is recharging through kinetic energy as the axle is spinning, well, that tends it's to trend towards rear locking if you don't get that right. And so was it a little bit of that and the rear wing? I don't know. That's not is what's being said, but that was where my head went immediately. Is there's some formula here that's causing an instability that's beyond Max's control. So
Yeah. We're just seeing, like, even outside of this, really quick, we'll jump into McLaren. Even like George's qualifying incident, like, wasn't really explained. Not a normal thing. You have veteran drivers as commentators, and they're like, don't know what that was. Like, that looks weird. That doesn't look like, it's not a normal lockup. The car's driving itself off the track as he's turning. There's weird things with these regulations. But I definitely think Red Bull needs to figure out the wing. So,
yeah, well, we saw a little bit of that with it was Colapinto during qualifying. He had a big off in Maggots and Beckett's. And they said on the radio live, we think it was a gust of wind, that there was a small one.
flying, literally flying.
He got lucky. That was crazy. He caught air.
Lucky he didn't roll at all. He didn't catch any edge.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Well, we'll shift gears
McLaren
to
action.
shift clear to McLaren. I think the sprint was a circumstance of luck. We had, like you said, both Red Bulls with a bad start. Audi also had a pretty terrible start, but they were already behind. Lando wound up dumping his battery and climbing all the way up to P2 for a brief spell. And wound up finishing P3. I do think a little bit of that was an unintentional favor from Max, putting up a fight against George as George was trying to make his way through. And I think we were 1 or 2 laps away from George catching and passing Lando. So appreciate that, Max.
The more we see that, I feel like George and Max really don't like each other.
Oh, no.
Straight up.
Yeah. No, they
never
are not
pretty with
friends. Quali was rough. I did not have fun watching the quali.
It's tough to watch.
7 or 8 tenths back. Lando almost missed out on Q3. I was very nervous.
He had a brake duct failure or something.
I don't remember what it was. I know there was some shenanigans with the tire, and so he wound up using a fresh tire, but then he had to back out of the lap for some reason. Made it through by like 800ths, basically.
Yeah,
Bortoletto almost got
he
him, so it was
squeaked
close.
by. Yeah, he
Yeah,
squeaked by.
yeah. Oscar P8. I think both McLarens have faced some balance issues all weekend. Oscar seemed a little more susceptible to that than Lando, but both guys were having snaps and corrections all throughout quali and even during the race a little bit. So they just, car didn't look settled, whether it was not the right window or that's just where the car is right now. I don't know. I was really hoping that maybe their performance is just more focused on the mediums and that the soft tire that they were on in quali just for whatever reason didn't hook up well, or they had a hard time lighting it up, or they were getting it too lit up and were burning through tires. But that did not pan out. Oscar got a little unlucky at the beginning of the race.
Yeah, bummer.
Lindblad and Lawson had a real great start, and they were up there. Oscar basically gets sandwiched, and then Lawson sweeps across his nose and pretty significant front wing damage. So he winds up pitting early, going onto the hards. Tries to go the rest of the way, ultimately can't, has to make a second stop, and was really in no man's land, got lapped fairly early on. And then, by grace of the safety car, wound up finishing P11. And some of the DNFs and whatnot. So not a great weekend for Oscar. Lando, on the other hand, I think he was P6 on merit. But then you have Kimi drop and Max drop. And so he gets P4 at the end of the day. Lewis was briefly investigated after the race for a potential yellow flag infringement. That would have been, I believe, a 5-second penalty, and that would have dropped him to P12, which means Lando would have inherited a podium. So that would have been way too much luck. Didn't happen.
The McLaren success stories this season seem to be very like, hey, I'm here for if something happens in front of me. Like Piastri had a good Austria, like just a good race. Lando's had a couple of decent races, but with their bad luck, it seems to be like, hey, we're gonna float like P5.
They're just
P6.
good enough to hang around. I would say Japan is, and I think Miami Sprint. Well, those were the two races where it really looked like McLaren could bring the fight to Ferrari and Merc. Oscar almost won that race. He had the potential to win that race, at least in Japan. And Lando won that sprint race. But besides that, it really does feel like we are third best team and, just hanging around the old, good old George Russell. I'm just here to field whatever anyone else dropped. Yeah.
Not for the win.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, Lando didn't look great. He wound up passing Hadjar. That was about it until we had some DNFs and some bad luck that fell his way. So,
my follow-up question, because you said y'all are the third best team. This is very interesting because we are both like the mid front right now, which is kind of weird for our teams.
I have Red Bull over McLaren if that's where you're heading right now. But I would say up until Austria, I would say McLaren was the third best team.
So who's the fourth best team?
Well, McLaren right now, and then V-Carb.
So you give Red Bull the edge. We're not getting. This is the same theme every week. We're not getting a fair fight between these two though, because something happens, or somebody like way underperforms every single week. Like Oscar and Lando have both gotten the shaft like majorly a few times, and then when we have a good setup for the weekend, you have like Max or Hadjar DNF. So it's like we don't know.
I definitely had McLaren above Red Bull until their most recent package that came in Austria. But I think just based on outright pace, Hadjar was right there with Lando, finished ahead of him in qualifying. So it's tough to argue with that.
Yeah.
It is
Hydra's
interesting
had two good
to
weekends.
me.
I'm liking this guy.
Yeah, he's doing quite well. I am starting to get a little bit concerned with the Mercedes powered teams because it does feel like all of those cars are falling behind in the development race. Mercedes has lost ground to Ferrari. McLaren has lost ground to Red Bull. VCarb has overtaken Alpine as best of the rest. Like, um, Mercedes still looks strong. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, no.
But they are losing that development race right now. So who knows? Maybe there's some upgrades coming. It sounds like people are bringing stuff to Hungary.
Yeah, Hungary seems
so
to
we
be
got
like the big upgrade race.
yeah, 3 weeks from now, I think. So yeah, um, yeah. Let's maybe get into some of the other thoughts, takeaways from the races. Mentioned VCarb. They're looking really strong. They're definitely best of the rest and have kind of usurped that from Alpine as of recently. We did get an Alpine double points. However, we got a VCarb 6-7. So, they're doing well. Lawson stayed sharp. Lindblad finished well at his home GP, so those guys are looking good. I'm starting to see, silly season rumors are starting to trickle through. Solov, I forget how to pronounce his name, the F2 driver. Same story every year, right? Red Bull Junior driver that they really want to put in the seat, so who's going to get fired? I don't know how you fire any one of these three guys. Hadjar, Lawson, and Lindblad are all crushing it right now. So
they're all in the points. Unless something happens, they're basically in the points every single race. If anyone's going to get the shaft, it'll probably be Lawson because he seems to be the fall guy. Lawson's performing great. Lindblad, being a rookie, is performing great. Hadjar's performing great. I think even if Max is having power unit issues, outperforming him twice, solid. That's better than like anyone has done in the past 3-4 years, basically. Lindblad was even on Lawson's butt at one point. He's like, "Hey, can you hurry him along?" type deal. Like, "Hey, get out my way." Love that. Kid seems spicy. No, they're in a good spot. First few races, it was all Alpine as the best of the rest, but that Red Bull power unit does seem very strong, and then the drivers are doing phenomenal. I think if you're that team right now, you should be very happy, and the F2 driver needs to just freaking chill.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's Red Bull, so you never know. Helmet might come through and say, "Hey, sorry, Liam, you're out." I do think that if that were to happen, I think someone would pick him up. I think, Stroll's never going to get fired, but let's say he moves on and races back.
Like I could see
a team could pick him up. Sounds like Ocon might be on his way out. Bottas is potentially in the hot seat. Checo's been outperforming him, so. I don't know.
He's earned himself a seat. It'd be surprising to see him just be gone, especially if seats are open.
He would have a pretty rough career in F1 if that's how he went out, just based on his extremely short tenure with Red Bull and getting yanked for Yuki, and then to get cut when you're outperforming your teammate at VCarb would be wild. So, I don't know. Red Bull does wild things, so you never really know.
That's Red Bull for you.
Yeah.
How about
Speaking
Gabby?
of hot seats, well, I want to speak about hot seats there.
Okay.
Gabby is. You messed up my segue. Is
my
what
bad,
happened
my
there?
bad. I was trying to segue
you. Another good race for Bortoletto. Finished P8. He was right there. Started P11. Hulkenberg has been behind. No point finishes this season, so. A little concerned. I love Hulkenberg. Fell in love with him with the dynamic when he was at Haas with K-Mag.
Yeah, that's fun.
And that whole dynamic. And then to see him get his podium a few years ago, or this last year, actually.
Last year. Yeah.
Last year. So I'm rooting for the guy. I love the guy. He's losing out to his second-year teammate here. And
Old
I
man
think
syndrome finally kicking in.
I don't know. I mean, he's already kind of taken a break in F1 and then got brought back when he got reintroduced at Haas. So, I'm a little concerned. He is not one of the drivers I'd like to see leave the grid, but recent performance and where that Audi should be. He DNF'd. That's really not his fault. It's a
Yeah, yeah.
reliability issue, but just overall as a trend for the season, he's been getting outperformed by Gabby. So, um, clicking
I,
talk,
if I had to pick
ticking
people to
clock. I'm
leave, yeah,
dyslexic.
yeah, that was pretty bad.
Yep.
Um, I mean, we've kind of talked about what drivers we like and dislike. Hulkenberg's definitely not someone I would pick to leave the grid, but I could see him being in that like first chunk of drivers that are gonna end up leaving based on
Mhm.
performance or just like your contract's up by type thing. Like you're not, we're not firing you, but we're not rehiring you type deal. Um,
I
I
just
like the
hope that
guy.
I hope they treat him better than they treated Daniel Ricciardo on his way out the door. That's
Yeah,
I don't want to see that for him. So,
Hulk's a good guy. Always been a great driver, but not on the best team. But
hmm
it'd be really interesting if you can like just throw into AI Hulkenberg on like a top four team and just see like just hey, what would Hulkenberg's career look like if he was at Mercedes the whole time or something like
he
maybe
had a
not good to
stint
put
of
him against
decent
Lewis, but
finishes. He had a streak of decent finishes when he was at Renault. But I
yeah,
don't
he
know.
did have a good section at Renault. So Alpine back into the points, they just were kind of hanging out. I think they're gifted it a little bit. We did our X Factor, and Colapinto's in 11th for what seemed like forever because I was waiting to text you about it. I'm like, come on, baby, give me that point. I got my point. Good race by them. Kind of gifted the positions though, so
Yeah,
not they weren't extraordinary, but I think we get back to the Mercedes power unit. They've taken a step back.
I think they're right there. I mean, they were P11 P12 before the
Hmm.
DNFs and stuff. So they're right
Well,
there.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean, recent trend. We just got done talking about VCarb. Right now, Alpine is 1 point ahead. I think that's changing next race, and I think VCarb is going to continue to be the best of the rest. But there is still a long road to the end of this season. Alpine's got an opportunity to bring some upgrades to the table. And who knows, this could be another one of those real fun end of the season constructor fight
it'd be
battles where we get
great.
some drama. That would be awesome. I mean, we always know it goes down to the end of the season because it really is. You look out one time and you get those points that can make or break it, and there's millions of dollars on the table, so they're not going to back off. So,
Oh, absolutely not. I will say, I said, whatever race for them. I mean, Colapinto started like 19th or something, so he had a phenomenal race. He was up seven position, or maybe it was 19th. He was way back there. Anyway, he was up at one point when I was watching like six positions. Um, he had a good race.
yeah.
I've always been in the middle on Colapinto because he's fast, but he seems to crash a lot. But that was
Well, the
his rookie
crashing
year. It's
thing,
kind
aside
of
from this qualifying issue, has really gone away. He
yeah.
seems to have gotten a little bit sharper, a little bit more consistent. He's beaten Gasly a handful of times this season, and
And
so
Gasly looked very
um,
strong beginning of the season.
yeah, I think Colapinto's stock is rising. He's got some pace, and as long as he can consistently finish like this, I think he's got a future. So good on him.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you want to share the
speaking
bad
of our
news, or do you want me to share
yes,
the bad news?
well, speaking of predictions, one of my experts was Aston narrowly misses out on points. I was led astray. They did not
Still
bring
counts.
upgrades. They did not bring upgrades. That's not going to happen
They
until
brought
Hungary.
nothing.
Yeah, not a good look. They were nowhere. Both cars did finish for the second time all
Alonso
season.
almost didn't
So
start.
Alonso almost didn't start. He had to take a pit lane start because he almost didn't make the safety car line. That was funny. Um, but yeah, I mean, second time all season. Miami Grand Prix was the first. So I don't know. I still think they're I mean, they're not going to be best of the rest, so they're
I think
they
no,
might
I
be able
think
to
I'm
fight
all
by
out.
points by the end,
I
but
think I'm out on Aston.
yeah, it's unfortunate. I was really rooting for the narrative that Aston Martin and Newey were going to cook and Red Bull was going to flop and Max was going to go to Aston. Um, it's not happening. Not happening.
Yeah, they didn't cook anything.
No.
I do hope
No.
for their sake,
Well, they burnt it. They
mostly
cooked. They
for
just burnt it.
Fernando Alonso. No, it's raw. They never cooked at all. I hope for Alonso's sake that they bring something okay to the table
Mm-hmm.
in Hungary. And it was, if I remember right, learning about it, it's Hungary, this chassis, and then their next upgrade is going to be power unit. So they're not going to get everything at once. So
No. No.
chassis will help, but I think the power unit one is the one we need to be excited for.
Mm-hmm.
As long as the
I agree.
assuming the chassis helps. If the chassis is nowhere,
Well, I mean, I think the chassis is going to be helpful. We saw issues that weren't necessarily power unit related. Stroll, particularly here at the British Grand Prix, was resulting to basically trying oddball turning techniques like flicking, which is like what competitive esport drivers do in the F1 game, where he's basically like full lock into a corner that doesn't require it. So he was like full lock through some of the corners in Sector 2, which are like fairly gentle corners as long as you get the speed right. Yeah, that's not a power unit issue. So there's aero, there's chassis, there's weight. I don't know how many things this chassis upgrade is
they're a
gonna.
mess.
Yeah. So yeah, took a big fat L on that and my prediction of both McLarens in the top 5. So that's a little insight into my predictions. We'll get into
If
that here in a second.
Piastri's race didn't get ruined, you might have had a shot at that based on how the race ended. But we'll rub it in your face in a second.
Coulda, woulda, shoulda.
Cadillac,
Bald Eagles, baby.
love it. America.
Livery was dope. It looked as good on track as it did in the renders. That's what we want. We want teams to embrace a theme. And own it. It doesn't have to be the best looking livery. I don't think I would rate it higher than like a B, honestly, when we circle back to our livery rankings.
Nope.
Yeah, but that's what I want. I just want you to do something different and own it and stop with these little BS ticky-tacky things. Looking at you, Williams.
Don't put a wolf on your front wing.
Yeah. It's awful. They look to get a little bit closer to Haas with this upgrade package. You know, they didn't have the reliability issues that they had in Austria, so that brake upgrade seems to have worked. But they didn't look like they were light years ahead of Aston. They are still kind of trapped at the back of the field. So we'll see what they can bring over the course of it. They're both rocking that Ferrari engine, so it's a little surprising to see both of them where they are. But then again, the teams they're competing with are all rocking Mercedes engines, aside from this dog shit Honda. So
Yeah. So Honda's looking real bad this year. No, I mean first year team. I think they should be happy with where they're at.
I think you have to be. You know, Haas has proved that you can have a career and a longevity as a team even when you're not at the top of the hill. So I think that's what they're looking for. They're happy to be involved. They're clearly making incremental progress, and I think they're right where they need to be for a first season in F1.
And you nailed it. Their goal by the end of the season should be just to close into that. Ideally for them, like middle of the pack would be great, and the best of the rest middle. But I mean, if you can close the gap to Haas and be, on their tailpipe end of season, that sets them up for season 2, where it's like, okay, we could kind of start a level playing field. Let's see what we could do now. We're not learning anymore. We're just adapting our car.
I think their goal has got to be to compete with Haas by the end of the season. I think Audi, Alpine, and VCarb are a ways up the road from them, but who knows? Maybe they do an upgrade package and something just works. So
Yeah.
we will see.
All right, we're gonna wrap it up. Let's look at our points because this is gonna feel so good.
No, it's not. We did not live up to our prediction prowess from Austria. So you walked away with 2 points. Your front row prediction, you were 50-50. You had Kimi Lando, so you got Kimi there. Your podium prediction, 0 for 3. You had Kimi Lando Oscar. That's a tough one.
I mean, we
to
both
miss on
would
all
have
three.
nailed Kimi, but
Yeah, that is true. That was supposed to be the safe pick. That's a bummer. And then you got Colapinto points, which we already talked about. So a bold move, paid off for you.
I can't believe that paid off. I regretted saying that so bad.
I pressured you into it.
I lived with that for a few days. Like, that's just going to put me in the negatives. It's cool.
But you know what? You're going to come locked and loaded for the next races now that you know.
I'm prepared.
Yeah. I got a net 0. So I got 1 point for Kimi on the front row. George was my P2. That did not happen. Podium, I had Kimi Lando George. So by virtue of a safety gift, I get George. And then 0 for 2 on my X Factors, which you will remember are negative points if you get them wrong. So yeah, both McLarens in the top 5 and Aston narrowly miss out on points. So define narrowly, because we finished on a safety car restart. They're still a lap down.
We're going to go position-wise, but Aston's narrowly might be a bigger, gap than
That's all about
Alpine.
Perspective. What's wide, what's narrow in these days? Who knows? No one knows.
Aston narrowly missing might be like P18 at this point. We beat one team.
I'm gonna have to be a little more conservative here with my X factors moving forward. So you got a 2 point gap, 2 point lead here.
One was conservative. I feel like I thought McLaren was gonna be fast. I mean, look at our podium. Like I had Lando Oscar up there. So
we had both written off Ferrari. So that was really what it came down to, was Ferrari did much better than we expected. So that would have knocked McLaren back, and it impacted our front rows and podiums. So that's what it boiled down to at the end of the day. We'll not be making that mistake again. Ferrari's in the mix.
I don't think your McLaren's was. I think your McLaren's was conservative. Aston was a dart throw, but so is Colapinto. So I mean,
I came out aggressive just because I wanted to get up with a lead. Backfired. So
that's all right. 2-0 is not bad. I'm sure I'll do something stupid here. I'm going to keep those a little spicy.
Yeah. So we got a week break, and then we're going to get ramped up for Spa, one of our all-time favorite tracks. Bad rep in F1 as of recent years for safety and shenanigans with weather and restarts and British bias and all of that stuff. So
British bias.
we'll dig into all that in a predictions video here coming out in the next few weeks. Yeah, maybe we'll throw in another
we'll cook up some
hot
fun
laps or ranking or something in there.
We'll cook up something. We'll figure it out. I'm sure there's going to be some rumors and news to throw in there too. But thank you for joining us as always, and we'll see you soon.